These nuts?
Later.
Identity V is basically the ultimate test of friendship endurance, since it's already infamous for turning besties into arch nemesis faster than a hunter performs blink. Picture this! You're ranked with your friends, down too early and sent to the basement, and what do you hear? Yo-yo! From your so-called friend? Boom! Friendship status obliterated. And just when you think it can't get worse, try being a friendly hunter in duo mode. Your hunter teammate, who's been plotting epic takedowns, will see you as the ultimate betrayal. Forget about being enemies with the survivors. Now, you've got a new nemesis who will side-eye you for eternity. As if IDV didn't already have enough ways to destroy your social circle, the developers decided to crank up the chaos meter by adding a new game mode, Copycat. This mode isn't just a game, it's the blueprint for World War III, now available in your favorite asymmetrical horror game. Copycat, basically, Among Us crashed landed into IDV, takes betrayal to a level that'll have you questioning every relationship you've ever had. Think you know your friends? Think again. This mode isn't just a game, it's a perfectly engineered friendship demolition device that could start World War III before the next patch even dropped. So, how exactly does this mode ruin friendships, break relationships, and potentially spark a global conflict? Well, folks, let's find out. Copycat is the latest chaos-infused mode in IDV, where everyone's a suspect, even that harmless-looking Edgar Valden who's been sketching away in the corner. In this mode, the line between friend and foe is blurrier than the Ripper in Fog. Forget about your usual hunters like Mary or Joseph, because they won't even make an appearance here. Everyone's the survivor here, and yet, every character is a potential hunter in disguise. The objective of this game mode is pretty straightforward. Well, at least until you realize it's a twisted game of trust and treachery. There are 3 factions in this mode: the copycats, the detectives, and the mystery guests. The so-called copycats are your undercover hunters, and their mission is clear. Eliminate as many detectives as possible before they get exposed or before the detectives finish their deductions. Victory for the copycats comes when the number of detectives equals the number of copycats, or if a critical sabotage goes unresolved. The copycats can identify each other by checking the color of their tag number, which makes them even more dangerous as they can team up for the ultimate betrayal. The opposite faction, the detectives, have a task that's as fun as trying to find a needle in a haystack made of needles. Their job? Find and eliminate all the sneaky copycats? Or finish all their deductions before they get eliminated. Sounds easy, right? Except for one tiny detail. Detectives have no idea who the copycats are, or even who their fellow detectives are. So, as a detective, you'll need to keep your wits about you, because in this mode, everyone's suspicious. To survive, detectives need to gather clues and try to piece together who's plotting against them. The catch? Well, imagine trying to vote out someone you think is a copycat, only to find out they were actually another detective all along. Oops, now you're down a team member and probably on the receiving end of some serious side-eye from your remaining detectives. So, while the copycats are having a blast playing undercover, the detectives are left to navigate a game of paranoia and misdirection. And then, there's the third faction, the mystery guest. They're basically the wild card in all this. Their goals can change depending on their role, and they're not really on anyone's side, unless it benefits them. So while everyone else is busy with their alliances and strategies, the mystery guest is out there doing their own thing, adding a bit of extra unpredictability to the mix. In essence, this game is the ultimate mind game, where lying is your best friend and trust is your worst enemy. It's like a social experiment proving that even among your closest friends, trust issues are real. Forget about being in a tight-knit group. In this game mode, you'll discover that even the person you've shared your deepest secrets with might be plotting your downfall. It's like scientific proof that trust issues are a universal constant, and that your friends might secretly be plotting against you in ways you never imagined. It's the ultimate test of whether your bonds are strong enough to survive a betrayal, or if your wildest nightmares were just warm-ups for this game. In this mode, the game has two phases. First up is the active phase, where detectives have to tackle various tasks, like playing the piano or catching dragonflies. Sounds fun for a detective's work, right? Each completed task helps build up the deductions meter. The goal here is to reach 100% deductions, which, if achieved, means victory. And it's during the active phase that things get really hectic. While detectives are busy with their tasks, copycats are out to make their lives a living nightmare. They can attack and eliminate detectives to stop them from finishing their jobs. To make matters worse, copycats can also perform critical sabotages. If these sabotages aren't dealt with, they'll lead to a copycat victory. And while detectives can fight back, their ability to attack isn't endless. They're more like one-hit wonders, having to be strategic about when and how they strike. In short, it's a constant game of trying to balance completing tasks, defending against attacks, and dealing with sabotage, all while wondering who you can really trust. The mystery guests also add their own brand of chaos to the mix during this phase. They can do everything from getting themselves voted out to turning every other survivor into one of their own kind. They could be on the side of the copycats, the detectives, anyone who will lead them to finish their mission. The second phase is the meeting session. You can kick it off by reporting a dead body or dialing everyone in on a radio that looks like it was designed when the entire NetEase team was drunk. During this session, it's all about pointing fingers and accusing each other of being the copycat. The person with the most votes gets the boot, which is great if you like drama. Personally, I'd say the meeting session is the quickest way to either wreck your friendships or give yourself a sore throat. It's all about shouting that someone's the copycat while everyone else ignores you and insists you're just paranoid. Now that we know there are 3 factions in this betrayal game, let's break down each one's role. You can get all the juicy details from the game manual, since explaining everything here would take way too long. But if you can't find the manual, even though it's right there on the menu, or if reading it feels like a hassle, don't worry. I've got you covered with these screenshots. Some of these roles are only available in Copycat 2.0, which is basically Copycat on steroids. To access this advanced mode, you've got to answer at least 18 out of 20 questions correctly about the whole mode. So unless you're up for the soul-crushing task of reading, memorizing the Copycat rules, and then taking a test that feels like a university entrance exam, I'd suggest steering clear of that advanced mode altogether. It's a game, not a final exam after all. Moving on, let's talk about the do's and don'ts in Copycat mode. Why do you need this guide, you ask? Well, a few reasons. First, so everyone, including you, can actually enjoy the game without wanting to throw their phones. Second, so you don't get banned forever from this mode, or, worse, from Identity V altogether. And third, to save yourself from a flood of death threats from people who are convinced you're a game-throwing menace. Trust me, following this guide might just save your day. First off, as a detective, do your tasks, and don't just wander around the map like you're on a leisurely Sunday stroll. And please, for the love of all things digital, stop obsessively checking the CCTV. Seriously, how does a game set in the 1900s even have CCTV? Did someone invent time travel just to spy on their neighbors? Anyway, back to the point. Do your tasks. The more you get done, the quicker the game ends, and the better your chances are of winning. You've got to complete every task as a detective unless, of course, you're assigned the role of sheriff or hunter. In that case, if you strongly suspect someone's a copycat, you can channel your inner vigilante and silently follow them, ready to strike. This bold move has two possible outcomes. Either you successfully take down a copycat and get one step closer to victory, or you accidentally stab your own teammate and end up in a spiral of regret and agony. It's a real gamble, to be honest. Second, vote wisely and avoid random lynching. The meeting session is basically a live commentary of finger-pointing and wild accusations, where literally everyone's a suspect. So, it's best to gather some solid intel before you start casting votes and sending people to their doom. And if you're playing with a friend on voice call, let me be clear. Do not, I repeat, do not spill the beans on who the copycat is if you get eliminated. If you get knocked out and then immediately tell your friend who did it so they can avenge you, that's straight up cheating. You're supposed to suffer in silence, not give your friend a cheat code to victory. Thirdly, you'll get your role randomly in this game. So, even if you send a strongly worded letter to Netties begging for a copycat role in every match, there's no guarantee you'll get it. When you get the role that isn't what you want, please don't just bail on the game. Sure, if it's an emergency, go ahead and leave. But if you quit just because you didn't get the role you wanted, that's pretty rough. It's not fair to the other players who are there to have fun. So, embrace the role you're given and remember, at the end of the day, it's just a game. Fourth, use the emergency call wisely. Only call for an emergency when it's actually necessary, like when you've caught the copycat red-handed. If you're thinking about calling an emergency to discuss global economic issues or whether Vera nares tonight and never should be renamed into tonight and always, well, just don't. Unless you want to be voted out, of course. Anyway, avoid calling an emergency for irrelevant stuff, like needing to take a bathroom break or confessing your admiration for a Fiona Gilman piano performance. The meeting sessions are long enough as it is, longer than watching a baby Joseph struggle to catch a seasoned Norton. So please, save the emergency call for emergency stuffs. 5. If you're a detective, resist the urge to camp out in front of the CCTV. Sure, you might feel like a high-tech guardian angel, monitoring every corner and trying to spot the copycat. But honestly, all you're doing is making yourself a prime target for elimination. Your teammates will likely call you out for doing nothing, and the copycat might just use your stationary position as an opportunity to knock you out. The better strategy? Finish your tasks first, and then maybe take a quick look at the CCTV. Or, if you really want to keep an eye on things, do it as a ghost after you've been eliminated. That way, you're not just a sitting duck waiting to get picked off. 6th, if you're a copycat, make the most of your sabotage options. Seriously, sabotaging is your bread and butter for winning this game. With only 2 of you sneaky copycats on the loose, coordinating and executing sabotage is key to your success. Use sabotage to delay the detectives' progress, scatter their groups, and block their access to crucial areas. It's especially handy right after you've taken out someone and need to cover your tracks quickly. Just remember, the more chaos you create, the better your chances of sneaking to victory. 7th, and arguably the most crucial point, speak in English. NetEase has the auto-translation feature, which sounds great in theory. It's supposed to translate everything into your preferred language and vice versa. In practice, though, the auto-translation is about as reliable as a tattered umbrella. Exist, but not working. Also, it might not translate anything properly, except when your friend decides to accuse you in Tagalog or Vietnamese, which just makes things more miserable. So, to avoid the chaos of miscommunication and to make your life a bit easier, stick to English. It's the safest bet to ensure everyone's on the same page and that you're not left scratching your head over non-existent translations. A. Don't just stay silent when you call a meeting, unless you're aiming to get kicked out on purpose. A meeting session in this game can drag on for a whole 10 minutes, with 1 minute per person. So, who in their right mind would sit through a meeting and not say a word? 9. And this is the last thing about this game. Make your lies as sensible as possible, especially if you're the copycat. I get it. This is a game of deception where the truth is practically an endangered species, but come on, at least make your excuses believable in the meeting session. A copycat, after being suspected, will do anything to craft the perfect alibi. That's great! It's the whole point of the game! But please, spare us the absurd lines like, "I'm sitting with Alice IRL and she's the copycat," or worse, "Don't vote me out. I'm just a little girl." Not only are those excuses painfully bad, but they're also a fast track to getting voted out in 10 consecutive games. Honestly, I love Among Us and games like it, but there are a few must-haves for a good experience, and the top priority is no lag. Unfortunately, Identity V's Copycat mode is about as reliable as trying to stream a movie on a potato. I'm not sure if it's my ping or if the servers are buckling under the weight of too many players, but Copycat mode lags like it's stuck in slow motion while the rest of the game is running just fine. Maybe the servers are just crying for help, overwhelmed by the sudden surge of wannabe detectives and copycats? Secondly, this Among Us styled game is a lot more fun when you can actually communicate with each other. But here's the thing, in Copycat mode, it seems like almost everyone I've met either has no idea how to communicate or doesn't speak English. It's like trying to play a team sport where half the team is shouting in a language you've never heard and the other half is just flailing around. Not exactly the recipe for smooth gameplay. Thirdly, it seems like many players are still scratching their heads about how this game mode works. I honestly thought that if you're jumping into Copycat mode, you'd at least have a clue about the basics or have played Among Us before. Apparently, that's too much to ask. That's why I put together this guide, because clearly, some people need a map to find their way through a game of betrayal. So, while Identity V is a solid asymmetrical horror game with a stylish twist, when it comes to being a betrayal game like Among Us, it's kind of like bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. That's all I've got to say about Copycat mode. Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you next time.